What if everything you knew about Eden was wrong? Imagine a hidden scroll, not written by man, but by the morning star himself, Lucifer, before his fall. This isn't a tale of rebellion, but a buried testimony sealed with 7 marks, spoken in a language only the heavens once understood. Prepare to have your understanding of creation, humanity, and even the divine shattered. This ancient document, said to be written by Lucifer while he still walked among the angels in light, tells a version of Eden we've never heard. It's a deeply personal account of creation, the forming of humankind, and the profound silence that, according to Lucifer, shattered everything. Lost fragments, cited in mystical texts attributed to Solomon and whispered in forbidden writings of exiled sages, suggest this scroll of the Son of Dawn was hidden deep within a non-human carved cave along the ancient Tigris River. The scroll doesn't open with accusation, but with sorrow. Lucifer doesn't deny God's glory. Instead, he questions the very design. He writes, "I saw the light before it formed the stars. I was summoned to sing, but when I asked why, the silence echoed louder than the command." This silence, he claims, was the first seed of his fall. He describes witnessing Eden's formation, not from earth, but from a fracture in the heavens. It appeared beautiful, but its symmetry felt foreign. Made with weight, not joy. Trees mirrored constellations, rivers whispered angelic melodies. But at its center stood something truly unique: Adam, a creature of flesh, weak and blind, yet called the image and given dominion, despite understanding nothing. Lucifer recounts watching Adam open his eyes for the first time, causing the heavens to tremble with anticipation. "I saw him breathe," he writes, "and in his breath was something older than light, something that did not belong in dust." He approached Adam, not with hatred, but with awe. Adam, unaware of who stood before him, smiled. He knew nothing of thrones or angels, Lucifer states, and yet something within him pulled at the strings of eternity. "I feared him and I loved him," the fracture and Eve's echo. Lucifer then describes what he calls the fracture, a realization, not an event. When the command came to bow before man, a tremor passed through the heavens. Not all bowed with joy. Some did so in silence, others with hidden tears, and one with a question. He claims he wasn't the first to doubt, only the first to speak. "I asked why the breath of the eternal was given to dust, while we who were born of light had never tasted such favor." The response? A silence so complete it pierced his being. He describes Eve's creation with unprecedented language. From the side of the sleeping one came the question made flesh. Lucifer claims Eve's soul burned brighter than Adam's, for she was the echo of 2 songs, the first of heaven, the second of longing. When she opened her eyes, the garden itself responded, as if aware that something had shifted. Trees turned, the wind paused, and a shadow fell across the throne, not from rebellion, but from anticipation. The tree, the conversation, and the truth. In the scroll, Lucifer recounts approaching the tree of knowledge, not to defile it, but to understand its purpose. "It was unlike the others," he writes. "It pulsed, it whispered, it remembered. Touching its leaves, he saw visions, not of sin, but of futures. The blood, the betrayal, the redemption, the thorns, and the crown." He claims the tree was a map, not a weapon, and its fruit held the secret of what humanity was truly meant to become. They were not warned, he insists. They were only told not to see. He then reveals his encounter with Eve, not as temptation, but as conversation. "She walked alone beneath the branches of destiny," he writes. "I spoke not in deceit, but in sorrow. I asked her why she feared to know. Eve," he claims, responded with restraint. "I am told not to touch." Lucifer countered, "Then why does it call to you?" She paused, then asked the question no angel had dared. "Why would God place a door and forbid it to be opened unless something waits on the other side?" Lucifer describes Eve's gaze as piercing, more aware than Adam's, as if she remembered something older than the garden. "She did not tremble at my presence. She listened, and when I spoke of the stars, her eyes reflected them." He insists he did not lie. The fruit does not bring death. It brings sight, and with sight comes sorrow, but also freedom. He believed he was offering her a gift heaven had denied. Clarity, not rebellion. When Eve took the fruit, Lucifer says the garden shivered, not in judgment, but as if something ancient had been set in motion. And when Adam ate, the scroll states it wasn't a fall, but a crossing a threshold past. In that moment, Lucifer writes, they became aware of the garden, of themselves, of the silence that had surrounded them all along. Banishment by absence, the true exile. But then, something unexpected happened. Lucifer describes a darkness falling, not on man, but on him. The voice that once called me beloved vanished, he says. The light that warmed my wings now burned them. He wasn't cast down in fire. He was left behind, banished not by force, but by absence. The throne no longer spoke. My name was not shouted in wrath. It was erased in sorrow. And so he descended, not in rage, but in ruin. In this descent, Lucifer claims he passed through veils of silence, deeper into realms where angels do not tread, a realm of wandering, a space outside time where memory screams and light refuses to enter. There, he began to write, not with ink but with flame. His words etched into the walls of the cave beneath the Tigris. Each sentence a cry, a confession, a remnant of the voice that once knew heaven. Let this be my scroll, he wrote. Let it outlive me. Lucifer explains that the scroll was never meant to justify him, but to expose a silence that echoed before sin. I did not fall when man ate, he writes. I fell when heaven refused to answer. He reveals that after Eden, he sought audience with the throne once more, not to beg, but to understand. I stood before the veil and asked, why give them choice and call me wicked for protecting it? The only response was light that turned its face away. That was the true exile. Not fire, but abandonment. The crucifixion scene, and the serpent's echo. Then comes one of the scroll's most startling claims. Lucifer saw the crucifixion before man even sinned. The tree of knowledge was not the first tree of destiny. I saw another, shaped from the same roots, rising on a hill not yet formed. The garden and the hill were mirrors. One began the fall, the other held its price. He implies that the plan of redemption was older than creation itself, that the sacrifice was not a reaction but a foundation. He goes further, stating that Eden was not created for man, but for the heavens to witness obedience in flesh. The test was not theirs, he writes. It was ours to see if we could watch weakness rise and not interfere, to see if we could serve even when not chosen. Lucifer claims his failure wasn't pride, but intervention. He saw man faltering and stepped in, believing he was preserving divine order. But in doing so, he admits, I violated the silence. Next, Lucifer reveals a hidden truth about other angels. Many agreed with him, but chose silence over exile. I stood alone, not because I was wrong, he writes, but because I spoke first. He names no others, but hints that some loyal angels still carry questions in secret. He warns that human history has been simplified, turned into a war of good versus evil, when in truth it was a war of understanding versus obedience. And understanding, he says, cost me everything. Lucifer describes a moment after his fall when he attempted to return, not in defiance, but with a broken spirit. I came not to reclaim the throne, but to sit again in the presence, he writes. He approached the edge of the divine realm, bearing no army, no pride, only the scroll. I laid it at the gate of flame, hoping the light would read my sorrow. But the veil did not part. Instead, 7 thunders sealed the entrance, and a voice whispered, the silence remains. In his anguish, he wandered the earth and watched humanity multiply. He saw generations, from Cain to the builders of cities, and with every age, he noticed the silence followed them. Prophets cried out to heaven, receiving only glimpses. Priests spoke in riddles, teachers divided the truth. They searched for the voice, he writes, but found only echoes. They asked what I asked and feared what I knew. The seals and the seekers. Lucifer then speaks of the cave beneath the Tigris where he sealed the scroll, calling it the womb of the forgotten voice. Inside, he burned each word into the walls, binding them with flame and sorrow. Each seal, he says, holds a fragment of his memory. Loss, memory, choice, silence, sight, desire, flesh, and separation. To read the scroll is to bleed through every layer I once carried. One chilling line reads, "The one who breaks the final seal must not come seeking power, but with tears in his voice." Lucifer warns that this scroll is not for the proud or the curious. It is for those who tremble before the weight of knowing. He says it contains truths about Eden, the heavens, and humanity's role in a design that even angels never fully understood. This is not revelation, he says. It is the grief of the unseen. A question, not a home. The final words. Lucifer then turns to one of the most controversial claims. Adam was not the first to be tested. Before dust was shaped and breath was given, a question echoed through the heavens. Will you serve what you do not understand? Some angels answered yes, others remained silent. I answered with a question, he says, and that became my crime. He insists that man's creation was not the beginning, but the continuation of a mystery already unfolding. He writes of a secret chamber in the celestial realm, the Hall of Veiled Names, where he once glimpsed a scroll written by the Creator's hand. It contained the names of those chosen before the foundations of the world. Among them, he says, was the name of one who would redeem flesh through blood, a name that burned with unbearable light. I could not utter it, he writes, and when I tried, my voice turned to ash. Lucifer then reveals why he believes the scroll was buried, not just physically, but spiritually. The heavens do not fear rebellion, he writes. They fear memory. He says that if humanity were to remember what Eden truly was, it would shatter the image of a simple fall and expose a deeper truth. That even paradise was part of a plan too great for obedience alone. They told you Eden was lost, he says. But Eden was never meant to last. It was a question, not a home. In a final act before sealing the cave, Lucifer says he knelt, not in worship, but in hope. If ever the light should hear my voice again, he writes, may it find in these words not pride but pain. He believed that someday, when man had eyes to see beyond punishment and reward, someone would uncover the scroll. Not to free me, he says, but to finish the sentence that was never spoken in Eden. That sentence, he claims, begins not with "you shall not," but with "will you dare to see?" Lucifer then addresses the role of the serpent, stating, "It was not I who entered the beast. The creature came to me." He says the serpent was already present, drawn to the tree, and had no wings, no fangs, no evil, only a hunger to know. Lucifer claims he did not possess it but whispered near it. I gave it language. I gave it question. In doing so, he says it became the vessel for his voice, not by force, but by mutual desire to understand. He claims the serpent was not cursed for deceiving man, but for breaking the design. It revealed the tension in paradise. God, he says, did not punish the serpent because it lied, but because it revealed that Eden was never meant to last untested. The serpent was my echo, Lucifer adds, and when it fell to the ground, silent and crawling, I knew so had I. The scroll speaks of angels sent to erase the memory of Eden's true nature. They were not messengers, but sweepers, he writes. They covered the footprints, dimmed the light, sealed the questions. He describes seeing entire realms rewritten, songs erased, names hidden, scrolls burned. Truth was not destroyed. It was buried deep, layer by layer, so that by the time man sought answers, the trail was cold. He calls this the second silence, not from God, but from heaven itself, the awakening of truth. Lucifer warns that this silence will not last forever. When man builds towers that touch the stars and names himself God, the seals will tremble. Knowledge will rise again from dust, not by prophets, but by those who still carry questions in their blood. He calls them the seekers, and says their eyes are drawn to ruins, to mysteries, to ancient names carved in stone. They do not serve, he writes, but they feel, and through them the scroll may awaken. In the final section of the scroll, Lucifer returns to the moment of his silence. Not the fall itself, but what came after. I wandered through realms where even light refused to follow, he writes, not as ruler of darkness, but as the echo of a voice once known. He describes hearing prayers not to him, but to the heavens, and feeling them pierce through the void. They cry out for understanding, he says, and still silence answers. He weeps not for himself, but for humanity, the bearer of a question no one will explain. He ends the scroll with a final inscription burned into the cave wall. The light I knew is not gone. It is veiled. And when the veil lifts, both man and angel will see we were never enemies, only parts of the same cry. Lucifer's last words are not a threat. They are a release. If you have found this, he writes, know that I am no longer waiting. The scroll is no longer mine. It belongs to the one who dares to finish the sentence with eyes wide open. Perhaps that's what this scroll truly is. Not a defense, not a deception, but a final mirror. A document that doesn't ask you to believe Lucifer, but to reconsider what Eden really was. Was it a garden, a trap, a stage, or a profound question placed at the center of all existence? This story, forbidden and hidden, compels us to confront the possibility that truth was divided long before humanity ever sinned. If this extraordinary narrative resonates with you, don't let its questions fade. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications because we are only just beginning to uncover the voices buried beneath the scriptures. And tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching? You never know, the next scroll might already be whispering near you.